She thought it was a fake wedding. Then the millionaire whispered, "Nothing will be canceled."
I'm standing at the altar in a dress that cost more than my life savings, about to marry a billionaire I barely know. His name is Julian Thorne, and he was my last shot. The contract was simple. Play the part of his loving wife for 1 year, and the debt that was crushing my family would just disappear. It was a business deal, a temporary act. So why did his vows sound so real? And why did he just go off script and say the word forever?
Before we get into how I wound up in this beautiful gilded mess, make sure you like this video and subscribe. You're not going to want to miss how this story ends. It all started 3 months ago, and my life was anything but glamorous. I was running the small, quiet bookstore that had been in my family for generations. But after a sudden illness, my parents were left with a mountain of medical bills. The final notice felt like a death sentence. We were going to lose everything. My desperation led me to a place I never imagined I'd be. The 40th floor of Thorne Industries, sitting across from the notoriously cold and intimidating Julian Thorne. He didn't waste a single second on small talk. His voice was calm, almost detached as he laid out the offer. His grandfather, the head of the Thorne dynasty, was demanding he get married to prove he was stable before handing over the keys to the company. It's a classic move among the super rich, apparently. He needed a wife for 1 year, he said, his steel gray eyes impossible to read. Someone I can trust not to run to the tabloids. Someone who gets that this is a transaction. Of course, he'd already had me investigated. He knew all about the bookstore, the debt, the desperation. He was offering me a way out, but it would cost me a year of my life pretending to love a man who was a complete stranger. A handsome and powerful stranger, yes, but a stranger all the same. I felt like a character in one of the novels on my own shelves, swept into a world I couldn't possibly understand. But with my family's home on the line, what other choice did I have? I signed the contract. It was this thick stack of papers full of clauses about public appearances and separate bedrooms and, most importantly, a strict no emotions rule. It felt more like an employment agreement than a marriage license. Those first few weeks were awkward. I was living in a wing of his mansion that was literally bigger than my entire apartment building. We were like two ghosts haunting the same ridiculously fancy halls, and our conversations were short and scripted. He was always polite, but so distant, a man made of marble and secrets. Our first real test was the Thorne Foundation Gala. I was terrified. It was my big debut into a world I was sure would eat me alive. As we were about to get out of the car and face a wall of flashing cameras, I started to panic. He must have noticed. He turned to me, and for the first time, his expression actually softened. He said, "Just stay close," he murmured, his voice a low hum of reassurance. "They can't get to you if you're with me." He put a warm, firm hand on the small of my back, and that one simple touch was like an anchor in a hurricane. It was the first tiny crack in his icy armor. That night I saw a different side of him. He expertly guided me through conversations with ridiculously powerful people, deflected invasive questions like it was a sport, and when some sleazy rival of his cornered me, Julian was at my side in a heartbeat. His presence alone was a warning. It felt protective. For the first time, it didn't feel like a complete act. After that, the lines started to get blurry. We started having dinner together, not because the contract said to, but because the silence in that mansion was less deafening when we were together. I learned that his cold demeanor was a shield, built up after a lonely childhood and the crushing weight of his family name. He learned that I read classic poetry and had a bad habit of leaving half-empty tea mugs all over the house. One night, I found him in the library, just staring out at the rain-soaked city. He looked vulnerable. He told me about all the pressure from his grandfather, the constant tests, the feeling that he was just a CEO, not a person. He talked and I listened. And in that quiet moment, I realized I was in big trouble. That no emotions clause was getting harder and harder to follow. I was starting to see the man behind the billionaire, and I was starting to actually care about him. The real turning point, though, was a weekend trip to his family's country estate. His grandfather had summoned us. The whole Thorne clan was there, their eyes sharp and judging. It was basically an interrogation disguised as a family brunch. They wanted to know if we were the real deal. That evening, his grandfather, this formidable old man with eyes just as sharp as Julian's, pulled me aside. He said, "You know, my grandfather has always been brilliant at business, but he's never been good at letting anyone in. I'll only hand my legacy to a man who understands the value of a true partner. This marriage has to be real for him to get the company."
My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about fooling them for a year. Julian's entire future was on the line. I felt this wave of panic and betrayal. Did Julian know this the whole time? I confronted him that night, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. "Did you know? Did you know about your grandfather's condition before you offered me that insane contract?" He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real conflict in his eyes. At first, no, he admitted, his voice quiet. "I found out a month ago. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you would leave." "Leave?" I laughed, but it was a bitter, hollow sound. "Julian, this is all a lie. I'm supposed to leave. That's the whole point." "But I don't want you to," he said, taking a step closer. His voice was barely a whisper. "Alara, this stopped being a business deal for me a long time ago." Before I could even begin to process that, the wedding day was here. It was a massive spectacle, all designed to convince the world and his grandfather that our love was real. I walked down that aisle feeling like a total fraud, my heart a tangled mess of doubt, and a tiny sliver of hope I didn't dare acknowledge. And that brings me back to the altar, my mind just spinning. The officiant prompted Julian for his vows. He was supposed to say the generic lines we'd agreed on, but he didn't. He turned to me, his gray eyes so clear and intense, and he just spoke. "Ilara," he began, his voice strong and steady, ringing with a sincerity that shocked the room into silence. "I came into this with a contract, thinking it was just a business deal, but I was wrong. That contract was just the excuse my heart needed to bring you into my life. Every day since, you've shown me what it means to have a partner, a friend. You've brought light into a world I thought would always be cold." He took my hands. "The contract said 1 year. It said this was for show. But my heart says something else, so I'm breaking the contract." He took a deep breath. "I vow to love you, to honor and protect you, not for a year, not until the company is secure, but forever. For me, this isn't fake. This is real." Tears were just streaming down my face. All the confusion and fear melted away, replaced by this breathtaking moment of clarity. This was real. His feelings were real, and as I looked at the man standing in front of me, I knew mine were too. When it was my turn, I forgot all about my scripted vows. Looking right at Julian, I spoke from my heart. "I came here to pay a debt, but I found a treasure instead. My vows are the same as yours, forever." The kiss that sealed our marriage wasn't for the cameras. It wasn't for his family. It was for us. It was the beginning of our actual story. It's been a year now. The contract is long gone, shredded and forgotten. Julian's grandfather is happily retired, leaving the company in his very capable hands. My family's debts are paid, but honestly, that feels like a tiny detail now. I found my home in the most unexpected place, with the most unexpected man. Our life started with a business deal designed for deception, but standing at that altar, when the contract said fake bride and his vows said forever, we chose our own truth, and it's a truth we live and love
every single day.